spicy food in Little Sri Lanka, Tibetan momos in Queens, and a Polish bar's jukebox with bootleg CDs. This week, we're in New York City.
Traveling the world to bring you delicious dishes, tasty beverages, and interesting experiences. This is the Destination Eat Drink Podcast on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
I'm Brent Peterson. Welcome to Destination Eat Drink, the travel podcast for foodies. If you love food and travel, this is the place for you. We try to explore the cuisine of every corner of the planet, and this week, it's some of the best of New York City. But first, remember to subscribe to the podcast and review the show in your podcast app. Helps the show, and it helps foodie travelers like you find us. I also have foodie travel guides to many cities here in Europe, including 17 in Portugal, a bunch in Spain, and I just published my foodie travel guide to Lille, France. These ebooks are like travel guides for your stomach, all the unique dishes and drinks, plus the best things to do in every city. Download yours at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink, and thank you very much. Well, this podcast is coming out on the 4th of July, and I thought nothing would be more appropriate than to do an episode on New York City. After all, it's one of the most diverse cities in the whole world, and it's where the Statue of Liberty is, and Ellis Island, where so many Americans pass through, starting a new life in the U.S. And in this episode, we celebrate that diversity by trying some Sri Lankan food, Colombian food, Italian, Tibetan, Mexican, Indian, so much more. And I'm starving, so let's eat.
Destination Eat Drink.
Mickela Mallozzi is the award-winning host and creator of the TV show Bare Feet with Mickela Mallozzi. We'll have Mickela back on the show in a couple weeks with a brand new episode. This time, though, she tells me about the best food in the Little Sri Lanka neighborhood of New York. I got to admit, I've never had Sri Lankan food.
It's delicious. It's delicious.
How would you describe it?
Some of it's very spicy. You'll see that.
Okay.
I happen to be getting a lot of spicy food. You would love it because there's a lot of vegetarian dishes. It's very there's a lot of fish seasoning, like fish, salted fish. It's real. How else can I describe it? It's really good. It's really, really, really good. There were a few places we went to. New Asha, which is like we do the short eats. Remember the short eats, which are it's basically like finger foods.
Okay.
Delicious stuff. So it's like fried things, and those were wonderful. But some of them were a little too spicy for me.
Okay.
So if you're not into spice, it might be hard for you. But they did.
But you're a Southern Italian lady. You're used to spicy food.
No, we don't eat. No, it's funny. We put pepperoncini and stuff, but it's not that it's not the cumulative spicy.
Okay. It's
just like a shot of spice. But black pepper, I'm not a fan of black pepper. That's the only thing that I don't like to eat, honestly. But I feel like Indian spices and South Asian spices are a whole other level of spice.
Yeah, right.
That's nothing compared to crushed red pepper. But there's so much flavor in it too, which is beautiful, but it's very painful for my mouth. It's very painful. But then we also went to La Cruana, which is this. It's a 15-minute drive, so it's not technically part of Little Sri Lanka, but it's in Staten Island. It's a beautiful restaurant because Julia Lijasingba, I think I'm saying her name correctly. Her parents started the restaurant, and the father was a designer, and the mother's the head chef, and so it's all home recipes, the mom's recipes. But when you walk in, you feel like you're what I would imagine what Little Sri Lanka would look like, because the father designed the whole thing and imported everything from Sri Lanka, and it's just beautiful. And they have a Saturday and Sunday all you can eat buffet, which is amazing. So you come hungry, and they have white rice, red rice, yellow rice, coconut rice. They have the curry egg. They have the curry chicken. They have the pork. So they have meats if you eat it, but most of the dishes are vegetarian, and they're really it's all the mom's recipe. So you're eating,
Fantastic.
home cooked meal basically. And it's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's packed. It's packed all the time. So
you can do it in New York and not have to go all the way to Sri Lanka.
Exactly. Take the ferry over to Staten Island and you're done. But and New Asha, before they make their homemade mango lassi, they make them homemade. They make everything is made in house, and it's a tiny little block. Little Sri Lanka, technically where we went, is this tiny little block. And there's about 5,000 Sri Lankans people identifying as Sri Lankans in Staten Island. But that's a huge amount of people. It's the largest amount of people of the Sri Lankan diaspora outside of the island nation.
Oh, okay.
I mean, because it's a small, fairly small country. So, we ate very well. We ate very, very well. And then we went to the Sri Lankan market. And it's great because my guide, Sachin Dara, or we call her Dara too, she's a dancer in the Sri Lankan Dance Academy. And so she took me around in her whole community, and it's beautiful because we meet her seamstress, I dance with her dancers, her guru who's a drummer, but we eat lunch and we go to, it's just beautiful. And the amazing thing is, she says this herself. She's young, and she's like, my favorite snacks, my favorite foods, I can't get them at the regular grocery store.
Right.
But here, everything's imported, and I feel like a sense of home.
Right.
And my parents have a sense of home. And that's what you have around all of New York City. That happens in our Latinx episode, that happened in our AAPI episode when we were in Little Manila out in Queens, is these communities build a sense of home. And in our Arab American episode, I'm going to kind of jump around, that really is such a theme in that episode, because a sense of home for a lot of these people is the sound of the music, and the transmission of information is in the home. And I love the line that Esra Warda says. She's in our first segment in that episode, where she's teaching us Algerian Rai dancing. And she goes, I want my classes to feel like you're in my living room, because that's where I learned. That's where we share culture, history, music, dance, storytelling, food, family. It's in our living rooms.
Right.
And then a couple segments after that, I'm in a living room sharing that transmission through the Brooklyn Nomads, with Hedy Edelbeck. And it's like him and his brother and his cousins. And it's like that sense of home, the sense of home for Baladi. Baladi food is called hometown. For immigrant communities in any place, that sense of home is so important. And that's what we're really showing in all of these episodes of season 6 and in all the communities that are in New York City. And that's what we want to show I think that's why people feel connected to our show, because if they have any sense of feeling like it's home, that makes you feel good. That makes you feel like empathy for people. That's something familiar. Everyone wants to have that sense of home. And that's our goal in Bare Feet,
E. Snyder Aravelo is a foodie tour guide in New York. He talks about street food in Queens and how these businesses help lift up immigrants in their new home. Let's talk a little bit about street food. What are we talking about? Are we talking about carts? Are we talking about trucks, food trucks? How do we get it? And what are some of our different options? It sounds like they're limitless, Snyder.
It's tremendous. The food carts, and I have to tell you, I'm really biased about this, so everybody knows, because my mom is actually the one that's really, really, really famous in the New York City foodie scene, because she started in a push cart.
Okay.
Her name is Piedad Cano. And she's actually known in the food world as the Arepa Lady. So if people Google Arepa Lady, her story is going to come up. She started as a pushcart vendor, and push carts and trucks and all this. Well, first pushcarts are the port of entry of a lot of people into the economy before they can afford a brick and mortar.
Yeah, it's very cheap to just buy a push cart. You don't have to worry about rent or anything like that. You just get a push cart and you get a license from the city, and you're ready to rock. Yeah, well, that's the thing about the license. It's quite difficult to get a license here in New York City. Okay. There is only a limited amount. The number hasn't gone up since the mid 80s, and it's one of the things we're asking as a community, that they increase the number of licenses. A proposition just passed that they are going to finally revise the number of licenses so people can legally work on the street, which is fantastic. Because again, this is how people start, this is the American story. You pull yourself by the bootstraps. You start your push cart, you build it up, and then you open a brick and mortar, which is my mom's story.
And it's been the story of New York ever since the first immigrants arrived here. We're talking every community that's made their home in New York City at some point, the Jewish community, the Italian community, the Irish community, through Ellis Island into the Lower East Side. They all had push carts and they all had street vending, and then they moved on. They went elsewhere in the United States, and raised their families and all that. That's all, it's the same story. It's exactly the same story. So we had, every country has had people had push carts, Mexican push carts, Colombians, Peruvian, Indian, Bangladeshi, and so on. So you find that diversity in the push carts. You can walk down the street. You can walk on Roosevelt. Roosevelt Avenue is the main artery that cuts through this central part of Queens. If you walk on Roosevelt Avenue, and then I encourage people to get off Roosevelt Avenue and go to 37th Avenue and go to Broadway, you're going to find Filipino push carts, Mexican, Indian, Bangladeshi, take your pick. And then people ask me, how will I pick the best one? Well, if you do my walk, I'll take you to what I think are the best ones. But if you just want to walk on your own, just with this much competition, and they don't cater, none of these restaurants, none of these push carts cater to people who are not from their community. So there is a Mexican community, there is a Bangladeshi. So this is who they cater to. So the food is going to be just as authentic as you are back in whatever country. So pick any cart, really. Then you'll find Mexican tacos, Mexican street tacos. You'll find Colombian arepas. You'll find momos, which we covered. You'll find some Peruvian. Now it's starting to show up, a couple of Peruvian. You'll find a lot of Ecuadorian trucks. If you go around Junction Boulevard and Roosevelt Avenue, one block before, you'll start to see this long string of trucks and push carts, and they look different than the others. They're Ecuadorian. And then you can get your roasted pork, fried pork, blood sausage, delicious drinks like Quaker, which is a passion fruit drink with thickened with rolled oats blended into it.
Oh.
You'll find morocho, which is hominy corn cooked down until soft with spices, cinnamon, cloves, star anise, and allspice, with a little milk thickened with more corn flour. Imagine a rice pudding mixed with a chai tea. But instead of rice, you have hominy corn.
I like the sound of that.
So it's quite amazing. And if you don't know the menu, it's okay. This is one thing that's pretty particular about Ecuadorians and Ecuadorian push carts. The guy who's running the cart and making the food, he's cooking it right there. He's putting it together. But they have this woman and these guys who walk outside the cart with the menu in their hand. So if you don't know the menu, they'll guide you through it. That's their job. So you don't stand in line going, I don't know what to order, or trying to point at things. You stand on the side, and this person who works for that particular push cart or this truck will come to them with a menu in their hands, and they'll say, what do you like to eat? This is our menu. Do you like fish? Do you like meat? And they'll guide you through it and explain things. And then they'll scream the order at the truck guy. Like once you say, oh, I would love to have the fish stew. I would like to have the Quaker drink I heard on the podcast. And then they'll scream, don't be startled. They'll do this. They'll go, one Quaker, one fish stew. And they'll show up in front of you and they'll tell you, oh, it's going to be $10 or whatever. And you pay and then you move aside and the next person, the process starts all over again.
I like it.
So don't be startled by this lady. She's trying to take care of you. She'll be like, one fish stew coming up, and boom. And then you are on your way.
Marshall Crenshaw is a Grammy and Golden Globe Award nominated musician. He tells me about his favorite restaurants in NYC.
If I was going to go to a place in New York, the first thought that I had was of this place that isn't there anymore. And it's got nothing to do with the public health crisis that we're in right now. This place actually closed a couple of years ago, but it was a joint called Bombay Palace, Indian restaurant. And I was taken there for lunch one day. This Musician magazine, I don't know if you remember that one.
Sure.
But they did an article. It was a joint article between me and Billy Bragg and Graham Parker.
Oh, good combination.
Yeah, it was. And, so we had lunch and talked and did this interview thing. But it happened at Bombay Palace, and I've always loved Indian food. When my wife and I lived in New York City in the '80s, for part of that time, we lived in the East Village, and East 6th Street at that time was like a real, hotbed for Indian restaurants. There were like 20 of them in this one block. And the one that we would go to always was Matali. Over on the west side at 6th Avenue and Bleecker Street or 7th Avenue and Bleecker Street was Matali West, which was also really good. That place is a Five Guys now. But anyway, Indian food is, I'm trying to think of my favorite meals I've ever had in my life, and I guess a lot of them have been in Indian restaurants.
So what are some of your favorite Indian dishes? So you spend a lot of time in Indian restaurants. You must have some faves.
Yeah, it varies. I order different things. Another meal that really sticks in my mind, I meant to look up the name of this place in Albany.
Okay.
Right now I live about an hour south of Albany, New York, and there's this old school Italian place there. It's been there forever.
The best.
And when you drive by it, you look at the old neon sign, and if you're like me, you think, I got to go in there. And it is a great place, but there was this one night when we went up there to see a show. We went to see the Carolina Chocolate Drops.
Oh,
and
the best. I love
we tried to go to this Indian place that I can't remember the name. I'm sorry, we tried to go to this Italian place that I can't remember the name of. But if you Google Italian restaurant, Albany, New York, it'll come up first. But we couldn't get into there, so we wound up being redirected to this place just like a block away in this kind of nondescript-looking building down a couple of stairs. And that meal is still, vivid in my memory. I had swordfish. There was some risotto involved.
Right.
And I think there was some pesto sauce in there somewhere. But anyway, whatever it was, the bread, with the olive oil, just like that meal, I'll never forget.
When you eat Italian, do you have wine with it? What's your bev of choice?
I don't know if I did that night, but yeah, I used to drink a lot of wine. In fact, I even have a song called Red Wine. And this was the thing that lasted a while, like it was my go-to beverage, except, it was water and red wine. That was kind of it. Well, coffee too, but I stopped drinking it a little while ago because I wanted to lose weight. I realized that I didn't like the way I looked, and I wanted to lose about 10 or 15 pounds, so I cut out the wine, the carbs.
That's going to put a stitch in the Italian food then. No carbs, no wine.
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, I have to decide that I'm going to break my usual routine and just go for it if I'm going to have Italian. But it's not. It doesn't fit into what I normally eat these days. But I still do it once in a while. Once in a while, I just say, well, it's time for some pasta and bread,
Tim Kafalis is a video and special effects editor who's worked on shows like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and Eater's Guide to the World. He also created the show This Is My City, where he explored cities around the world. Tim tells me about his fave spots in his own city of Brooklyn. Let's talk about some of your favorite places in New York where you like to go out to eat.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're really spoiled for just about everything here. Sure. I spent a good amount of time in Greenpoint. We just moved to the East Village a couple of years ago, but my heart is still in Greenpoint. And so most of the places that I like to go to are there. I'm a simple sort of like beer and burger kind of a guy. Some of my favorite places, I love tacos. We've got La Superior is a great taco spot in Williamsburg. I do like Calexico. I got to say, it's a great place to go. They always have the best service there. I really like going to Emmy Squared, which is, I know you like a Detroit-style pizza.
Yes, I do.
They have some incredible pizza. They also have a great burger. They have a few locations, I think in the East Village and in Williamsburg. But the amount of like Vietnamese food and Thai food and Japanese food, we're really just totally spoiled in this neighborhood. But most of the stuff I like is in Greenpoint. Pauly G's is excellent. I personally love Five Leaves. It is a bit of a tourist trap. Like I don't go there for brunch, but Five Leaves was like one of the original good restaurants in that area, and I still holds a dear place in my heart. Bernie's and Frankel's. Frankel's is like it's like a sort of a hipster Russ and Daughters. Peter Pan Donuts in Greenpoint, unbelievably good donuts. It's almost like stuck in time, that place. I love going there. But yeah, also, like, I mean, I don't know if you want to segue to bars, but
that was my next question. Yeah. I know you like an occasional beer. So where are the places you like to go to get a bevy?
Well, my all-time favorite is the Diamond Bar in Greenpoint. I actually lived above it for 4 years. It was my cheers. And the owner, Diamond Dave, is so sweet. And the beers are always rotating. They now just recently they do liquor and everything like that. But it used to be just beer and wine. But they also have I also like bar games, and they have tabletop shuffleboard, which I love to play. There's also a bar called the Sunshine Laundromat, which is a laundromat that in the back has a bar and about 30 unbelievably good pinball machines.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and they're kept in such great condition. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it Mickela. It's a brewery from in Copenhagen. Is it from Copenhagen? Yeah, they're in Copenhagen, and they just opened a huge brewery out by Citi Field, where the Mets play, and their beers are unbelievable. And so I like to go to a game and usually hang out in the brewery for the good first like 5 innings, and then end up going into the stadium. But it's just everything they have is just really, really good. I got to mention 456 Bar because about 6 weeks ago I got married in that bar. So that holds.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much.
You got married in a bar.
I did. Well, we did. We went down to City Hall, and then my wife's brother manages the bar, and so
perfect.
It was free, so it worked out great.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. In Greenpoint, I also love Goldie's and Palace. Palace was this old Polish bar that was taken over, and they kind of kept the old vibe to it, and they just upgraded it with really good drinks and really good food. I mean, I could go on and on. There are just so many. Hartley's in Clinton Hill is an amazing Irish pub. I love a good Irish pub, but it's not one that like feels like an Irish pub. It's just like a small little place with like a couple of really sweet Irish guys that are always there. And but yeah, Diamond Bar is the number one personal favorite.
There's tons of Irish pubs, and every city has, at least one. But I think Polish bars, I'm from Chicago area, and we got a lot of Polish bars in Chicago. And I think Polish bars are highly underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, in Greenpoint, there's a huge Polish community over there, and so there's a lot of places. So a lot of places are now selling because the neighborhoods got so expensive, and people can kind of just, sell and turn a huge profit. But the Polish places, there's one. Is it the Capri Social Club where the jukebox is all like homemade CDs, and they're all handwritten on it. You buy like a Jell-O shot. It's just like. Yeah. So and it's a good place for kids that don't have a lot of cash to spend to go have a good time as well,
Okay. How's that for a diverse sampling of New York for the 4th of July? I've got links to all my guests in the show notes. You can read more about Tim at timcaf, that's KAF.com. Mickela's website is travelbarefeet.com. E. Snyder is at culinarybackstreets.com, and Marshall Crenshaw is out on tour this fall. You can find out more at marshallcrenshaw.com. Well, that's it for this week. Next week, like I said, Mickela Mallozzi is back with a brand new episode about Northern Ireland and the Wild Atlantic Way. We talk about oysters right from the ocean, half pints of Guinness, and a whiskey distillery in a jail. Don't miss that. Until then, there's a brand new story on my website. It's about the search for a unique drink in Malta called the Kinney Spritz. And just when I was about to give up looking for it, it appeared right before my eyes. You can read the story at destinationeatdrink.com/blog. And you can support Destination Eat Drink at buymeacoffee.com/destinationeatdrink. Members of Destination Eat Drink at Buy Me a Coffee have access to all my foodie travel guides. That's quite a deal for a really inexpensive membership. Destination Eat Drink is distributed by the Radio Misfits Podcast Network and Ed Silla. Thanks, Ed. I'm Brent Peterson. I'll see you down the road.
Join us next week for another culinary adventure on Destination Eat Drink, a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.